Hey everyone. So that's actually a great segue. So my name is Mo Elleithee, and I'm Executive Director of the Institute of Politics and Public Service here at the Ford School, otherwise known as GU Politics. So by way of background, GU Politics, we are just finishing our second year. We were founded in the summer of 2015. I'm a Georgetown alum, undergrad. I went to the School of Foreign Service, graduated 2 years ago. And then spent the next 20 years of my life working in democratic politics. Kind of working on campaigns primarily, worked on a number of Senate races, House races, governor's races, several presidentials, including as the press secretary on Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign, and then was the communications director at the Democratic National Committee from 2013 to 2015. And I bolted just as the presidential campaign was getting started. I had spent a good part of my time while I was there essentially beginning to get ready for 2016. My shop was responsible for building all the opposition research books on all the potential Republican candidates. Put in perspective, when I left, it was like a week or so before Donald Trump even got into the race. He wasn't even on our radar screen. We didn't even have a research book on him. Hadn't even started one. And I got out in part because I know from experience just how grueling presidential campaigns are, and I've got two small kids, and I actually wanted to see them. But also, I was starting to get a little disenchanted with my life's work, right? People don't like politics, and they don't like it for a reason. And to be honest, I was part of that reason. Right? What I'd spent 20 years doing in politics was everything people say they hate about politics. So I was starting to feel a little gross and disenchanted and frustrated. Well, although I still loved the enterprise, I needed to take a step back. I had been teaching here as an adjunct at the McCord School for a few years, teaching just a basic elective class on campaign management and strategy. And in late 2014, Ed Montgomery and a few others, as the McCord School was getting off the ground, approached a number of people around town to say, you know, we're really serious at the McCord School about not just being a place where people come and talk theory and policy. It's not just enough to talk about the policy, but how things get done matters just as much. And so there was a real interest from its inception at the McCord School to have a lot of practical components to what the students here were doing. And one of the ideas was to stand up an Institute of Politics and Public Service that would be focused co-curricularly, not an academic program, but that would really focus on the practical side of politics, politics being broadly defined. And so they were picking a lot of people's brains. Mine was one of those brains, and it eventually turned into, why don't you come here and build this thing? And so that's what we did. The premise of the Institute, right, is we have sort of an informal motto. I don't know that I can pull up our website, but if you ever get a chance to go to it, politics.georgetown.edu, you will see front and center our informal motto, which is, public service is a good thing, politics can be too. Now the last year and a half is testing that notion. But our goal here is to inspire more people to get into politics. We are part of the McCord School. But everything we do is open to the entire campus, it's open to the entire university, and it's open to the general public. And really what we do is a couple of things. We really have sort of three stated goals. One, just pull back the curtain, right? I came to Georgetown. I don't know how many of you have been living here locally and how many of you would be coming to DC. But when I came to Georgetown a few years ago, I came here because I wanted to be here. I wanted to be in DC. I wanted access to all that DC had. And to be honest, I shouldn't say this too loud, back in the day, the campus did a piss poor job of giving it to me. There was sort of like an invisible wall at the corner of Wisconsin and M that separated this campus from the rest of the city. And so our goal is to break that wall down and give the students here real access to politics, broadly defined, through the people that actually practice it. By bringing them to campus, by bringing students out into the city. And I'll talk about some of these specific programs and ways that we do it, but that's it. Pulling back the curtain and giving folks a real behind-the-scenes look at what this whole enterprise really looks like. Not just what we're studying in the classroom, but really what it really looks like. Number two, we want to get more people to go into politics. Too many people right now see this town and politics is kind of broken, right? It's easier to affect social change in Silicon Valley than it is in Washington. And so our goal is to give people who are interested the tools that they need to actually go do it and helping them navigate how. I was always interested in politics when I was a student. I was here during Bill Clinton's first election and was engaged in college Democrats and Georgetown students for Bill Clinton, and I took weekend trips up to New Hampshire, but I had no idea this was a career. And so helping people navigate what that's like. Third, and this is the part that jazzes me up the most. As I said, I can't teach people how to do politics because I'm one of the guys that broke it. So what I can do is pull back that curtain and show people how it's done and why it's done and bring interesting people to campus to do that. Even demystify the parts that I think get a bum rap. But at a certain point, we try to flip the script and say, okay, you guys you're here because you want to be, right? A lot of your peers wouldn't be sitting here, aren't sitting here. They're not interested in getting engaged. If we want more of your peers to get engaged in the process, what changes do we have to make now to the system, to the process? How can we make it work better so that more people are actually interested in going into public service and politics? So we will flip the script, right? I'll bring all my friends, all the people, all the contacts that I've accumulated over the years, Democrats, Republicans, journalists, and we'll have these conversations and share our experience. But we don't have the fresh set of eyes. We can't fix it. We've got the experience, but we've proven we can't fix it. You guys have a fresh perspective. And so maybe by blending the experience with your perspective, we can actually start to figure out ways that these practitioners can go back out into the field after spending time here on campus and tinker around the edges, at least just enough so that we're leaving you a little bit less of a mess when we turn the keys over to you. So that's sort of the ethos of the place, right? That's what drives us. So how do we do it? We launched with three main verticals of programming. The first is our fellows program, right? You just had a good session with one of our current fellows. Every semester, we pick 5 fellows who are active practitioners in the field of politics, public service. So this semester, apologies if this is redundant in any way, this semester our 5 fellows are Anna Palmer, Jen Psaki, who was White House Communications Director in the Obama administration, Marlon Marshall, who was Director of State Operations, basically the nationwide field director for the Clinton campaign, Tony Sayegh, who, when we picked him, was a former media consultant, ad maker for the Trump-Pence campaign, and in the midst of this semester was just appointed Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Treasury Department, and Grover Norquist, President of Americans for Tax Reform. Good, diverse, ideologically diverse mix of people. Past fellows have included folks from Breonna Keeler of CNN to former Governor Martin O'Malley of Maryland, to Michael Steele, who was press secretary to John Boehner and a senior advisor to Jeb Bush's campaign, to Laura Chinchilla, who is an MPP alum here at Georgetown, who went on to become the first woman president of Costa Rica, have all been fellows over the course of our first 4 semesters. They come here every week over the course of their semester, taking time away from their jobs, and do everything from holding weekly discussion groups that are very informal, sitting around the living room of our office, and just to think of it as like a seminar, but without any homework, and you don't have to pay extra for it. So they hold weekly discussion groups, they do small group mentoring, they do weekly office hours, so you can just pop in and sit down and chat with them. They're basically here to talk with all of you. And it really is sort of the crown jewel of our program. And like I said, we're turning them over every semester, so there's 10 people that each year that you get to interact with at this level. Second vertical is our speakers and events vertical. We just bring a lot of people to campus. In the fall semester this last year, we did 55 events over the course of 65 school days. Some are big, some are small. We've had people like Bernie Sanders come in the middle of the campaign to give his big "What is Democratic Socialism" speech. Did that through our program. We had Speaker Ryan come and hold a millennial town hall where he sort of made the conservative case to young people why they should look at the Democratic Party. We did a series last year called Reflections on Running, where we brought in recently failed presidential candidates. People like Martin O'Malley, Carly Fiorina, Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum came in, not to deconstruct their campaigns, but to talk about what it's like to run for president. We had in the fall semester this year, a series that we called The Exit Interview, where we brought 6 senior level Obama administration officials, cabinet secretary or senior staff level, who came in and basically did an exit interview. Basically talked about what they see the Obama legacy being in their area. People like Susan Rice talking about national security, Loretta Lynch talking about criminal and social justice, Jack Lew talking about the economy, so on and so forth. And then we did Republican counterpoints after each one to provide an alternative perspective. Those are some of the bigger events. We also do small events. We have a career chat series where we'll bring in how to get your start in lobbying, where we'll bring in a Democratic and a Republican lobbyist. How to get your start in political journalism, where we'll have a small panel with people like Anna. How to get your start in on the Hill, where we're bringing a Democratic and a Republican staffer. We also do skills training workshops, where we've had how to edit video, how to, we're going to be doing one soon on how to conduct an interview, like a on-camera interview on both sides of the camera, as an interviewer or as an interviewee. We're going to be doing a number of those types of skill building things. We have a series that we call our Hipsters series, Hoyas in Politics and Public Service, who are Georgetown alums that have gone on to work in politics and public service at the highest levels, who come in and just talk about their career paths. So very career-oriented stuff. We also do a lot of experiential stuff. One of my favorite events that we've done was our mock caucus right before the Iowa caucus, where we had a couple of experts in people that had run Iowa caucus campaigns come in and sort of explain that really crazy, complicated process, and then we simulated one. Clinton and Rubio won, for those of you that are interested here on campus. We took 10 students to Cleveland for the Republican convention, 10 students to Philly for the Democratic convention. Next Friday, we got a group of 6 Georgetown students that we're taking down to Atlanta to see on the ground the upcoming special congressional election to replace Tom Price, where they'll be meeting with about 4 or 5 different candidates and journalists and campaign staff. So we try to mix it up and give folks beyond just this campus a view. We've taken a lot of site visits around town, to everything from the RNC war room on election day, so students could actually see what was happening there, to various newsrooms, to think tanks, to consulting firms. So it's about really helping folks see the experience. That's our speakers and events vertical. Our third vertical is our mentorship program, which is one of the things I'm very proud of, where I know how hard it is to actually find, like, with all the internships and early jobs I had in my career, I never talked to the principal. There were several layers between me and the decision makers. So we try to make one-on-one connections, think big brother, big sister type program, right? But for students. You fill out an interest questionnaire, you tell us what you're looking for in a mentor, we will find you one in town, and make the match. And then you guys get together for lunch or coffee every 3 to 4 weeks, at least. And our mentors include everything from former senior staff in the Obama administration, to newsroom editors, to television journalists that you see on TV, all the way down to the recently graduated Georgetown student who's working on the Hill as a legislative assistant or something like that. It's a great program, and some of the relationships, we've made over 90 matches so far. Some of those relationships are great. One of my favorite stories is the Politico editor who really connected with her student, with her mentee, and started bringing the student into editorial meetings where they actually got to just sit there and just watch how the decisions were being made about what they were going to be covering that day. That's the goal, right? It's trying to create those types of connections so that you all not only have someone in this town who you can bounce ideas off of or freak out to about career search or whatever, but also get to see another level of what's behind the curtain. In the coming years, we're going to be expanding a little bit more. We're going to build out an international politics vertical. We're going to build out a civic engagement vertical. We're going to be trying some other new things. But if I were to impart anything, it is we're accessible, we are free, we are completely non-academic, so you can be as engaged or not engaged as you want to be, and talk about things in a way that I think is a good companion to what you're talking about in the classroom. And there's varying levels of engagement. And that's the last thing I'll talk about before I open it up to you guys. As I said, you can be as engaged as you want to be. So we have, and almost everything that we do is non-competitive, it's non-application based, so you can just get as involved as you want to be. We have a few sort of more competitive programs. There's our student advisory board, which is about a dozen students from across the campus with a number of slots reserved for McCourt students specifically, who actually gather weekly, work with the staff, our ambassadors around campus, but also help us come up with ideas for programming and run some programming themselves. And that's a process where there will be a couple of spots reserved for incoming McCourt students at the beginning of the year. There's our student strategy teams, which is very cool to me. Each of our 5 fellows is assigned a team of 5 students. Those students help the fellow over the course of the semester. Research for their discussion groups, promoting their stuff around campus, helping them think through what to talk about each week and how to talk about it. They're called a strategy team because they're really there to help the fellows strategize how they spend their time here on campus. They also work on a pretty cool project. It's not for credit, but it's pretty cool. We jokingly call it our political hackathon, though we need to come up with a better name for it. At the beginning of the semester, we ask each team, tell us one thing that sucks about politics, one thing you just hate. Great, come back to us at the end of the semester with your fix. And students pick the issue, the students pick the solution. We've had everything from, here's a new way to do the presidential debate process or a whole new approach to campaign finance reform at the macro level, to the micro level, where one group once came up with a project that said, part of the problem here on this campus is that students aren't really aware of all the civic engagement opportunities, so let's designate someone in each dorm for undergraduates who can just be there to educate students on opportunities. We had one group that said, one of the biggest problems with politics today is that we all live in this echo chamber. It's in part our phones help create it, right? Because of the algorithms on every app tells me if I read these 3 news stories, it's going to spit 3 more just like it back at me. So what if we had a reverse echo chamber, where if I read these 3 stories, here's 3 opposing points of view. So all sorts of interesting ideas that come out of this. And then we collect them, and every summer we publish the 10 groups over the year and pump it out into the bloodstream. So those are the 2 most competitive programs. along with some of the trips that we take. Beyond that, there's plenty of other opportunities. If you want to take a student leadership role, we have a special ops team which basically helps us run our events. We have a comms crew that helps tell the story of what we're doing here and what happens at all of our events using digital and traditional media. And these are all good opportunities not just to be involved, but also to pick up some good skills that are helpful in the workplace afterwards. We have a research squad that does everything from base level writing and longer form writing to helping me. Next week we've got the chair of the Democratic National Committee coming in to do an event. I'm moderating it, and our research squad is helping me come up with the questions and giving me the research I need. So all sorts of different ways. And then there's just showing up, right? The base level of engagement. And anyone from the McCourt School, anyone from the campus, anyone from the general community can just come to any of our discussion groups, can come to any of our events, and really get a chance to engage. So that's it. I like the program. And I think in just the short period of time we've been here, I think you're seeing more and more students really take advantage of it. As I said, we're part of the McCourt School. We're open to the whole community because, frankly, that's part of the McCourt School's mandate, is that this is a service not just for McCourt students, but a service that the McCourt School is providing to the entire campus community. But we try to do some stuff that is, some programming that is unique to McCourt, and we'll be, for those of you that do enroll here, we'll make sure that you all know about that. So with that, I'll pause. And happy to answer any questions or take any ideas from any of you about the program. Yeah?
Are there any specific requirements to be part of like the mentor program?
Nope.
No?
Nope. It's helpful if you have an idea of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
We do every now and then get an interest questionnaire filled out that's just like, I would just like someone important. Need a little bit more than that. No, there's no requirement. We try to make at least 50 matches at the beginning of every semester. There's some students who have to wait a little bit, right? If they're very narrowly focused, it might take us a little bit longer to find someone, but anyone can participate.
Do you do events that are open to the public or general and not just for students?
Yeah, most of our events are actually open to the whole public. Now, when we had Bernie Sanders here, you needed a Georgetown ID to get in. As you can imagine, the line was, they started lining up at 5 a.m. for a 2 p.m. Event, and it was out the main gates. So, some of those types. Paul Ryan was another one where you needed a GU ID. But for most of our events, it's open to anyone in the public, but we usually reserve the Q&A session just for the Georgetown community. So even if there are other people there, we always try to give Georgetown students, staff, and faculty the first shot at asking the questions.
You said you're expanding mentorship to international field. I'm in a MITP program, Brazilian Management in MITP area.
So when I say we want to expand internationally, it's not just the mentorship, it's everything. We want to really take a look at how politics is practiced, not just here in the U.S., but overseas. We dabbled a little bit, when we had Laura Chinchilla, the former president of Costa Rica, as a fellow, right? She brought a really interesting perspective. We're taking a group of students to Jakarta this summer for an international trip in conjunction with the Harvard Institute of Politics and the University of Chicago Institute of Politics to take a look at leadership. So we're starting to expand a little bit. Right, we're not even 2 years old, so we need a little bit more time to really get there. But that's something we hope to really start to ramp up over the course of the next 2 years. And have some real, just dedicated programming that looks at international politics.
Are any of the student opportunities you mentioned offered as like paid opportunities, or are they all volunteer, and like what's the hourly commitment like?
So they're all, it varies depending on what you do, right? I mean, the student advisory, so first, paid, no. The only thing we offer that's paid, we do take a McCourt student as a graduate student assistant every year. Actually, I think we have 2. And then they help out around the office and get a little bit more active than other students. Everything else, it's not paid, and the level of engagement depends on what we're talking about, right? The student advisory board meets weekly and does some other stuff. The student strategy teams meet weekly with the fellows, but then they also have the project that they work on. But everything else, from like the comms crew to the research squad to the special ops team, all that, students fluctuate their engagement based on their own schedules, and we try to maintain it flexibly that way. So one other program I've neglected to mention that I really should mention. Am I okay?
You got plenty of time.
One of our big initiatives is called the Baker Center for Leadership and Governance. It's got a separate gift by Georgetown alum John Baker, and the goal there, it's housed in the Institute. The goal there is to focus on, again, sort of within the broader framework of why things aren't working so well. The theory of the case there is that one of the reasons we have a crisis of leadership is because we have a crisis of trust. And that people have stopped trusting institutions generally. Not just politics, not just government, but they don't trust Wall Street, they don't trust the media, they don't trust academia, they don't trust even nonprofit and NGO world. And so the Baker Center really focuses on that. And there's a number of different programming, a lot of different events. We hold an annual Baker Forum here in Washington, which is sort of a big ideas conference type of thing that brings together current and emerging leaders in various fields to talk about sort of a focused topic every year. But there's one program I would flag for you guys because it's one of the few things that we do that is exclusively McCourt, and that's our Baker Innovators. Every year we have a theme. We announce a theme for the upcoming year. The theme for the next year is security, restoring a sense of security in an insecure world. Right? People are just walking around feeling anxious about everything, whether it's economic anxiety or physical anxiety, whether we're talking about national security or food security or health security or water security. People are just kind of freaking out. And so we put out an RFP every fall to first semester McCourt students and say, this is the theme. Come up with a project to tackle it. Whatever piece of that you want. And we'll pick 5 of you and give you a $20,000 grant to go and work on it over the course of the next year. And so, for those of you that enrolled, we'll be announcing a new theme in the fall. We'll put out that RFP to first-year McCourt students. And then in January, at the next forum, you'll get started. That's when the Baker Center works on an annual calendar as opposed to an academic calendar. So the people kind of span the second semester of their first year through the first semester of their second year at McCourt, working on this project, which they'll present at the Baker Forum, and then hopefully, as we mature, we will find ways then to help those students that get the grant and come up with a KPAS project, figure out actually how to make some connections to go maybe even actualize them. So I flagged that for you guys. That is one paid thing that we do, and it is exclusive to the McCourt community. And you can find more information there at bakercenter.georgetown.edu. Other questions? Yes.
Most of the students I know who've gone through this program graduated right around when the stimulus bill was coming out. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of new jobs being created. Say we're going to be graduating in 2019. Do you have a prognostic as to what the economic climate or even opportunities for work in DC will be like at that time?
No. Unfortunately, I don't. I learned the hard way, as everyone else did, that making predictions about anything in sort of this new world order we live in is a risky proposition. I don't know. Right? Who knows what opportunities are going to look like in government, what opportunities are going to look like in the nonprofit world, what opportunities are going to look like in the private sector dealing with public policy issues. We don't know, what the budget outlook, the federal budget outlook is going to look like, what impact that's going to have on the states, what impact that's going to have on sort of the advocacy world or what have you. So I don't know. But here's what, having been around the block a few times, and I'll admit that, I've never seen anything like the current environment, but having seen a few different types of environments, I will say this. Washington is typically a recession-proof town, right? This is a town where there is never a lack of opportunities for smart people who are willing to roll up their sleeves and try to make the world a better place. People who are willing to try to apply a smart public policy background to affect some sort of change. This is sort of, one of 3 major power centers that focuses on that in some perspective. And so I don't know what the federal workforce is going to look like 2 years from now. Right? 2 years from now, we'll be in the middle of a new presidential campaign, and so we could spend the next 2 years orienting ourselves towards a certain dynamic, and then there's a new election, and suddenly we're in a completely new dynamic. We've seen that time and time again. So, we will help folks navigate based on, with our network, what opportunities exist and ways to think about their careers. But it's really the skills that you're picking up along the way and the ideas that you're applying that we're trying to help hone so that no matter what the outlook looks like, you're ready, right? You got a leg up ahead. And that's in part by what you're learning in the classroom, the skills that you're picking up there and through programs like ours and others around campus. And frankly, I think the biggest value add we have, to be completely honest and crass, the network, right? The people that we are going to be introducing you to are the people who are like doing it now. So unless they get phased out of their jobs, right? Like, you've got a pretty good network. We've had students now who are able to call up some of these big names in politics and government and in journalism now and just say, hey, I need some help. We've got one current McCourt student who was kind of interested in going into political journalism. We helped land an internship at CNN, starting to develop some relationships there. She now has her own byline at CNN. Right? We are facilitating the network and giving you the opportunities to hone those skills so that when you do graduate, you maybe have a leg up over other students who are coming straight out of the classroom but don't have those 2 components. That's how we think we can help, and I think that's valuable no matter what the environment looks like. Any other? Yeah.
How many folks participating in your programs are evening students who maybe are working full-time and
I can't put a number on it because, like I said, we just have like an open door policy, right? Now, we tend to try to do a lot of our events, but not all. A lot of our events, bigger events, tend to be in the evening.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes causes some conflicts. Our discussion groups for our fellows tend to be in the late afternoon. Usually, we try to hit that sweet spot for the discussion groups between those students that have day classes and those students that have evening classes. There's that. And then, we try different things at different times of the day in order to maximize opportunities. I know we do have some. I don't know what the number is, but I know some of our repeat offenders are evening students who keep coming to thing after thing. I would never encourage anyone to skip class, but if you skip class, we usually have something for you to do. So it is, like I said, I think we have something for everybody, no matter what program they're in. You just gotta balance the schedule. Any other? So, politics.georgetown.edu, check us out. Sign up for our mailing list, because then you'll, honestly, we usually recap the previous week and announce the next week. We are not one of those units that at the beginning of the semester will lay out our full agenda. We're making stuff up as we go. I think when we had Bernie Sanders, we had like 36 hours notice that he was coming to campus. So we're constantly moving, constantly coming up with ideas. We're very much driven by current events. So stay on top of it, and we are on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, at GU Politics. So I hope to see you guys around in the fall. Thanks.